I thank you for your replies. They were very interesting and helpful to me. And I actually did not ask Professor Pym a question that you've answered for me. That is the question of modernity and its relationship and the movement of modernity, which you did talk about just a moment ago. But I wanted to respond in a way to your other comments about the history of the translation of languages for biblical translation. And I was just thinking what a gift it would be to have a history of some of this in many, I mean, maybe there is, but an actual history of which languages were translated, as much as possible about how they were, because I know it was usually by committee of local peoples and biblical scholars, and also what happened to those languages. I've been very interested in those issues in Africa, and it seems like there's been so much work of Bible study and Bible translation there. I was just wondering if you might know whether one can access such a history, whether anyone has ever written such a history. I think it would be fascinating. So I'm asking you, but maybe you're the wrong person to.
These people here.
I think
because that is one of the amazing things that this collaboration, debate, whatever it turns out to be, with religious institutions certainly offers this question of what is the history of these translations.
Looking synchronically, there's a lot of work, and we have a lot of access to data about projects that are ongoing.
Right.
We have begun a research project in the NIDA Institute, which we call a History of Bible Translation, which a couple of people, Anthony, you contributed a chapter to that volume some years ago. You did, I know.
Oh yeah,
I read your article about that.
And Stefano did. There are probably others in the room who did as well. But the purpose of this is really to, well, the first volume was an overview, somewhat chronological, geographical, but also the attempt to cover disciplines and make it an interdisciplinary discussion. But really, that was just a sort of a prototype, a first volume. Subsequent monographs or volumes are meant to take either language situations, cultural situations, geographical situations, and drill down and ask questions about the relationship of the translation to language development, to decisions about language use, the involvement of government, influences of that sort, and the kinds of questions asked would depend upon the situation. It's just underway at this point. We've got something coming out on the Gold Coast. Charles, you will know the titles.
Yeah, it's got a long title.
Okay, well, dealing with the Gold Coast and history of the Bible in Persian. There's a work on Japanese.
East Africa.
East Africa. In Jewish.
Leonard Greenspoon.
Jewish translators and translations.
Right. So, well, frankly, the wonderful idea. The challenge is finding a publisher that thinks there may be a market of some sort for this beyond this room.
Well, with the growth in translation studies, who knows? But it just sounds like both a practical and thing to know. We should know about these things.
But the real
really interesting
impetus for all of this, I think, has been the intentional movement of Bible translation as an activity into the context of translation studies.
I see.
And we are benefiting in this world, in our small piece of the discipline, from the multitude of questions that are being asked in so many ways in translation studies. So.
Can I just ask a question? Translation, yes, of course, Bible translation is immense and extraordinary and so on. But I think generically, becoming a bit abstract now, generically I think the question probably can be asked about the translation of religious texts.
Yeah. Right. Yes,
in fact, this is a move we have just been making where we're using the language of sacred text translation.
Sacred text translation, because also it can be, if sufficiently theorized by someone who really loves theorizing rather than thinks of it as a bad thing, then it can be a real strike against fundamentalism. If you think that the Word of God can be translated, then it moves. So to an extent, I would like to say that I've thought this many times, but this is the place to say it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Professor Berman, did you have any concluding thoughts before we move on to?
No, thank you for that comment, because I think that would be much better.
Right.
Can include sacred texts as far as possible and to theorize it well. So no, I have nothing further. I think I better give some time to everyone else. And
Good.
just thank you for this opportunity. It was very interesting.
Professor Gensler.
I've had my space. I think I'd like to open it up, yeah.
All right. Well, please join me in thanking our four panelists, and then we will open it up to the floor.